Good evening, dear professor and classmates. My name is Janina, and I'm very happy to have this opportunity of sharing my thoughts with all of you about the reading of English lesson planning. First of all, I realized after reading chapter 1 and 2 how previous courses that I have taken within the career have set the path for this learning experience about the lesson planning. First of all, one of the aspects I remember was the fact that the lesson plan is basically the core of the lesson itself. The lesson plan answers questions like what am I going to teach, how am I going to do it, and when do I do it. So that is very important because it guides the learning process, and not only that, but it helps the teacher evaluate the method used in order to improve it if needed. Something else I remember was the principles. Let's talk about variety first. Now, kids love diversity. We all know that, right? So, and also in the process of learning, kids can get bored very easily. Therefore, the teacher needs to have different activities in order to keep their attention during the class. Flexibility is also really important. Let's just say life is not perfect, right? So, a good teacher needs to be ready for the unexpected. Let's say, for example, that today the kids are a little bit more hyperactive than normal. Well, then maybe the information that you are going to teach them needs to be addressed in a different way. Now, coherence is also really important because it helps students concentrate, and also it helps them achieve the significant learning. Now, balance is also very important. I think that not only kids but adults and humans in general need to have a good balance between listening to instructions and producing based on those instructions provided. There's gotta be a good balance. I believe that teachers not only should know those principles, but they should also understand them deeply in order to include them as they create the lesson planning to be able to cover everything that needs to be covered and also to be successful. Now, let's talk about what I learned from this reading. What's new? First of all, creating learning objectives. I have to be honest, I am not very familiar with this topic, and I found very interesting the part where it talks about the formula, the XYZ formula, which means that students will do X using Y with Z. I really like that because it gives the structure on how to create a learning objective, and that is definitely very, very useful for new teachers just like me. Also, the acronym SMART, which is the one they use to evaluate the learning objectives. One of the words used to identify this acronym really got my attention. I'm talking about the achievable part. And I think teachers should consider the reality, and they should work with what's available for that student to achieve real victories. It all comes down to getting to know your student as much as possible to be able to walk with them through that journey. Also, using the correct amount of time for each topic was very enlightening for me as well, because we need to make sure we cover all of the topics, and some activities should not be that long. For example, the warm-up activity. We all know that's very important, but it shouldn't be that long. Now, Something that was very clear for me was that creating the correct learning objectives is vital for the adequate development of the lesson plan. For me, the learning objectives are like the backbone of the lesson. And it was also really clear for me that the learning objectives should say what the learner is going to achieve and not what the teacher is going to do. Centering the process in the students is a great way of making the student feel part of the learning journey, which will result in positive achievements. Now, my question to the teacher is, could you please share with us some of the best practices to consider when creating a lesson plan for a group of kids that have very different knowledge levels? How can the teacher find the balance between creating a lesson plan that is not going to be either too advanced for some students or too boring for others? Thank you so much for your time and have a very good rest of your evening. Bye bye.